I had a lung collapse one time and I went to the hospital. While I was laying there, I decided I'd cut my braids off, so I took a scissors and cut them. I just left them laying there.
Willie Nelson is one of the biggest icons of country music and one of the most popular entertainers in America, regardless of genre. Although he is loved by the world, Nelson's journey to stardom is full of hardships and ups and downs. And now, at the age of 90, what is Willie Nelson's life like? Find out. His story is sure to surprise you. Do you like this character? If so, please comment 1 below. Let's go with the flow of time to learn about how Willie Nelson's life began. The life of Willie Nelson. In Abbott, Texas, Willie Nelson was born on April 29, 1933, or so the tale goes. The hospital personnel finished their documentation after midnight due to an accident. Therefore, nobody could be sure of the exact day of his birth. Despite this setback, Nelson always finds a way to celebrate his birthday for 2 consecutive days. Willie Nelson elevated the idea of beginning at an early age. His first original song was created at the tender age of 7. Even though he was far too young to have been in a relationship, much less gone through a breakup, the song dealt with the heartache of a guy whose sweetheart had abandoned him for another. It was from the most unexpected place that Nelson landed his first job as a professional musician. Nelson joined the Bohemian Polka Polka Band when he was 9 years old and played guitar for them. The drinking that occurred at the group's performances was something that Nelson's grandmother did not approve of, but she did not object to the young artist following his goals. Willie Nelson was an interesting and multifaceted personality even before he discovered his musical niche. Back when he was a high school student, he had a lot of interests. He could do everything. He demonstrated his flexibility off the field by dabbling in football, basketball, and baseball, in addition to his affinity for music. Still, he was interested in more than just athletics. A natural with the land, he loved getting his hands filthy and discovering all the ins and outs of farming. However, Willie's inquisitiveness did not end there. Taking up strange tasks was nothing for him. He went so far as to embrace them. His career history was varied and wide, spanning from ringing phones to cutting trees, from a pawn shop to nightclub bouncing. Making saddles, tinkering in garages, and washing dishes in kitchens were all things he dabbled in. Willie was the type of guy who would get his hands dirty and attempt something new. Feeling a strong desire to serve his nation, Willie decided to take a different route after high school and joined the US Air Force. On the other hand, destiny intervened. His back issues were revealed during his military service, which resulted in his honorable release. Undaunted, Willie continues his journey in search of new experiences. With the desire to reunite with his mother in Portland, Oregon, he embarks on his adventure with determination and hope. What will he do? How will his journey unfold? What opportunities and challenges will it bring him? Let's follow along. Journey in search of new experiences. He spent the night in a ditch after his unsuccessful attempt at hitchhiking along the roadside. Seizing a chance the next day, he boarded a freight train, eagerly awaiting the unknown journey that would bring him closer to his goal. Kindness may be found on even the most difficult paths. An altruistic truck driver gave Willie a few bucks so he could take a bus to finish his expedition. Willie arrived in Portland with an attitude of appreciation and determination, prepared to face whatever the future brought. Willie remained unfazed by the music industry's occasional disappointments. He took a chance at a new beginning by becoming a door-to-door salesperson. His charm and dogged persistence helped him sell Bibles and vacuum cleaners to residents in the area. He was able to polish his leadership and communication abilities while working as a sales manager for an encyclopedia firm because of his innate talent for persuading. The enticement of music, meanwhile, persisted even as he pursued his career. Indulging in the local music scene, Willie wowed bar patrons with his deep voice, reigniting his passion for music. Returning to his musical origins, he also began teaching guitar at a nearby music school, passing on his expertise to budding artists. Unbeknownst to them, they were being guided by a legendary figure in the making. Country music singer Farron Young heard Willie's song Hello Walls after he persisted through his first rejections. Willie shot to fame after Young recorded his interpretation of the song after realizing its genius. Not long after, other renowned musicians including Roy Orbison, Patsy Cline, and Billy Walker recorded covers of Nelson's songs. Amidst the triumphs, Willie's personal life was fraught with turmoil. His journey through love and marriage was marked by heartbreak and adversity. What did he go through? Let's watch. Journey Beyond Love and Marriage. Martha Matthews, his first wife, caused him mental and physical suffering, which tarnished their marriage. The narrative of their connection, nevertheless, continues to grow much more bizarre than that. It appeared as though Willie Nelson's life was doomed to be characterized by incredible highs and terrible lows, including an unfathomably violent marriage. In a terrifying episode, Nelson's first wife, Martha Matthews, exposed her vicious side by setting a devilish trap for him. As he lay pinned beneath the sheet, she swung a broomstick with unrelenting power, striking him repeatedly. The nightmare that unfolded was beyond description. One of Nelson's most famous songs, Crazy, was on the brink of oblivion at a critical juncture in his eventful career as a musician. There was a lot of doubt in the beginning, but it turned out to be Patsy Cline's finest work. At first, Cline was put off by the song because she thought Nelson's unusual manner was strange. She finally gave in to her husband's pressure, adding her special touch and cementing the song's position in music history. Willie Nelson eventually settled at a tranquil Tennessee ranch, not far from the hustle and bustle of Nashville as his career took off. However, one fateful evening after returning from a Christmas celebration, he was met with a devastating sight. What happened? Continue the story to see his pain of loss, so pitiful. The house was engulfed in flames. In his home, a fire started at some point. When the night came to a close, the peaceful house had been turned to ashes, and Nelson was left without a place that he could call his residence. Nelson took a hazardous chance during the chaos as the flames continued to blaze without stopping. Without concern for the danger, he raced back into the flames to retrieve his marijuana stash, which was a valued possession. The concept may make you chuckle, but when he did it, it wasn't a laughing issue at all. In addition to being extremely concerned about his safety, Nelson was also extremely concerned about the ramifications that might result from the authorities discovering the illicit chemical in the wreckage. In a crucial moment, he was forced to make a difficult choice, and he was burdened by the sharp reality of the potential legal repercussions that may result from his choice. In 1972, when Willie Nelson was feeling dissatisfied with the path that his career was taking, he made a decision that would have significant consequences. It was there that he put an end to it. He decided to end his almost 20-year connection with the music industry on his terms, and one of the ways he did this was by purchasing out his contract. Seeking solace from the Nashville scene, he made a bold move to Austin, Texas, a city pulsating with a vibrant musical energy. Little did he know this geographical shift would ignite a creative spark that would redefine his musical trajectory. How will his musical development be? Let's explore this exciting journey before we know him as a legend. Strong growth in music. At the same time that Nelson was immersed in the diverse culture of Austin, he discovered the motivation to break away from the confines of the classic sound of Nashville. Recognizing the importance of embracing the spirit of experimentation, he set out on a musical journey that would ultimately transform his career. He re-emerged in the music world with renewed energy in 1973, when he released his first album, Shotgun Willie, which received widespread critical praise. It was a seismic change that not only led to the revitalization of Nelson's career, but also created the foundation for the outlaw country style that became his identity. In his reflections on the transforming process of making Shotgun Willie, Nelson compared it to clearing his throat, which he described as a cathartic release that prepared the way for artistic liberty. Willie Nelson was bound to leave his imprint on the globe with a record that would captivate the attention of people all around the world. It was only a matter of time. It was in 1975 when the Red-Headed Stranger concept album was released. It was a masterpiece that would go on to solidify its position as one of the most cherished country albums of all time. This moment arrived in 1975. Nelson, who was 42 years old at the time, was finally able to reach the peak of superstardom as a result of this record, which was both revolutionary and distinctive. Nelson's very first #1 success as a vocalist was made possible by the Red-Headed Stranger album, which was also notable for its gripping plot that was centered around outlaws. Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain is a timeless treasure that was originally written by Fred Rose in the 1940s. Ironically, despite his years of success as a songwriter, his initial chart topper came in the shape of a copy of the song. However, amidst Nelson's soaring success, scandal rocked his inner circle in 1977. He took decisive action, parting ways with the manager who had played a pivotal role in his rise to fame. How is this scandal? Let's follow. Scandal. The decision was made when federal authorities intercepted a package that included illegal narcotics and was sent to Waylon Jennings, who is a personal friend of Nelson's and frequently collaborates with him. The management had requested that government agents do so. In addition, Nelson accused this manager of mismanaging the company's finances and of cheating the Internal Revenue Service. This treachery rattled the foundations of trust that existed among Nelson's professional group. There are a lot of colorful stories that surround Willie Nelson's relationships, but we have just scratched the surface right now. At one point in time, a former girlfriend of the famous musician made news by filing a jaw-dropping lawsuit, alleging that she was entitled to an astounding $50 million. What is her argument? She argued that Nelson should be held accountable for allegedly breaking a commitment to marry her, and she argued that laws about breach of contract should be followed. Even though the case did not make much forward in the courtroom, it did throw light on some stunning findings regarding the mechanics of Nelson's relationship with this man who had previously been his girlfriend. Nevertheless, it is not the end of the narrative. In a turn of events that defies comprehension, the culmination of this marathon supposedly featured Nelson performing a full-blown somersault while his girlfriend was still entangled with him. It is an image that, once imagined, proves to be indelible, embodying the peculiarities of Nelson's amorous adventures in a manner that is without a doubt unique. Even though Nelson had spent his whole life steeped in country music, he took the courageous choice to venture into unknown territory by choosing to create an album consisting of his cherished old-time jazz songs. Will this decision bring him success? Will it bring him any difficulties? Keep watching, the answer is right after this. Bold decision. The concept was rejected by his record label, which expressed concern about the possibility of a financially disastrous outcome. Nelson would not let this dissuade him from continuing to pursue his goals, and the masterpiece that resulted, Stardust, defied all odds to become one of his most adored and profitable albums to this day. After the publication of On the Road Again in 1980, Nelson found himself on the verge of yet another moment that would define his career. This song would go on to become one of his hallmark successes, and it was a moment that would define his career. On the other hand, the origin of this legendary hymn manifested itself in a way that can only be defined as fortuitous. During a trip that took him well above the clouds, Nelson experienced a flash of inspiration. He was flying through the sky. To record the lyrics that were taking shape in his head, he grabbed whatever was available to him, since he was afraid of the ephemeral nature of his creative enthusiasm. As luck would have it, he ended up writing the entire song down on the back of a bath bag, rather than writing it down. However, the song Always on My Mind, which is considered to be one of Nelson's most lasting hits, sprang from a source that was even more unexpected. Contrary to what many people believe, Nelson did not write the song on his own, nor did he write it out of a profound appreciation for Elvis Presley's interpretation of the song. Nelson was completely oblivious to the fact that the song had already been released and received praise before he chose to record it. However, as a result of a fortunate turn of events, his performance of the classic song would have a profound impact on musical listeners all over the world. Several instances of serendipity and cooperation have occurred throughout Willie Nelson's journey through the world of music. One of these times is a tragic encounter that will go down in history. It is possible to trace the origin of one of his most famous songs, Pancho and Lefty, back to an episode in which he happened to overhear someone else talking. In the course of a recording session with Merle Haggard, a fellow country music legend, one of the song's co-authors made an unsuccessful attempt to present the song to Haggard. Nelson, on the other hand, happened to overhear the conversation and immediately realized the tremendous possibilities of the song. Nelson's performance of Pancho and Lefty would go on to win 3 Grammy Awards after he decided to record it himself. Nelson's talent for working together extended beyond the creation of individual songs and led to the founding of the Highwaymen, which is widely considered to be the most renowned ensemble in the history of country music. The Highwaymen were able to capture audiences with their electric concerts, because they brought together four of the most influential figures in the outlaw country genre: Nelson, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, and Chris Christopherson. By working together, they were able to make 3 albums and have a #1 hit in 1985 with the song Highwayman, which was well named. In addition to the sphere of music, Nelson's influence extended up to the highest levels of authority. It was in 1980 that President Jimmy Carter and First Lady Rosalind Carter invited Nelson to play at the White House. They counted themselves among Nelson's supporters and invited him to perform there. The events that took place following the concert, on the other hand, were the ones that made headlines. In a memorable instance of daring spontaneity, Nelson famously snuck onto the roof of the White House to engage in his signature pleasure, which was smoking marijuana. Nelson and Carter maintained a true relationship throughout the years, which culminated in a heartfelt rendition of Amazing Grace in 2012. This bond was built despite the odd activities that they engaged in. The abilities and interests that Willie Nelson possesses go well beyond the limits of the music industry. A strong interest in martial arts has been there in Nelson ever since he was a boy. This fascination was initially aroused by the appeal of jiu-jitsu and judo instruction manuals that were marketed in superhero comic books. Nelson was able to achieve a second-degree black belt in Taekwondo and explore into formal disciplines of Kung Fu and Gongquan Yusu as a result of his initial interest, which eventually developed into a lifetime obsession. However, the relationship that Nelson has with his guitar is possibly the one that most exemplifies his unending passion for this musical genre. He has been playing the same instrument, which he has fondly dubbed Trigger, after the famous horse that Roy Rogers, a cowboy hero, used to ride. He has been doing this for more than 50 years. The worn look of Trigger, which is ornamented with a characteristic hole and studded with innumerable autographs, is a testament to the countless songs that have flowed from its strings throughout its history. The extent of Nelson's dedication to Trigger is unbounded, as evidenced by the fact that he has made tremendous efforts to protect it throughout the years, even putting his safety in jeopardy to save it from a burning building. In addition to the pursuit of his hobbies, Nelson's charitable activities have made an unforgettable mark on the lives of countless individuals. In the year 1985, he was a significant contributor to the establishment of Farm Aid, which is an annual charity concert that is devoted to assisting families that are struggling within the American farming business. Since its beginning, Farm Aid has been successful in raising millions of dollars to offer essential aid to individuals who are in need. It has garnered support from a galaxy of celebrities, including Roy Orbison, Bob Dylan, B.B. King, Billy Joel, and Tom Petty, among others. Willie Nelson's life has been a roller coaster ride of triumphs and tribulations, including a tumultuous chapter marked by financial turmoil and personal tragedy. Willie Nelson's life was a tale of triumphs and heartbreaks, including a tumultuous chapter marked by financial turmoil and personal tragedy. How did these two tragedies come to him? Let's continue this journey together. Financial turmoil and personal tragedy. As a consequence of a perfect storm of poor management, poor counsel, and unlucky investments, Nelson found himself in the position of having to deal with a tremendous tax burden that totaled over $32 million at the beginning of the 1990s. The idea of paying off such a gigantic debt loomed intimidatingly big, and as a result, the government took possession of the majority of Nelson's assets. This was the case even though Nelson was a top-selling artist himself. Nelson, who was resolute in his efforts to fix his financial condition, went on a diverse strategy to acquire finances and settle his tax issues. The IRS tapes Who'll Buy My Memories was the title of the double CD that he issued as a means of earning income to alleviate the financial burden of his outstanding obligations. In addition to this, Nelson resorted to selling some of his remaining goods at auction and taking legal action against persons whom he believed were responsible for his current situation. Nelson negotiated the challenging route toward financial recovery with the remarkable resiliency and ingenuity that he is known for. He received encouragement from friends and well-wishers. There was, however, an unanticipated obstacle that Nelson had to overcome as he was attempting to traverse the complex maze of financial difficulties. The individual made an appearance on television while wearing a T-shirt that bore the telephone number 1-800-IR-STAPE. This was done to attract public sympathy for his cause. Without Nelson's knowledge, The number belonged to a technology company in Utah that was unrelated to Nelson's firm. On the other hand, rather than being met with resentment by the proprietor of the company for accidentally tying up his phone lines, Nelson was greeted with an unexpected act of charity as the proprietor freely gave the number to the troubled musician. In the middle of the upheaval that Nelson's family was experiencing as a result of his financial difficulties, tragedy struck in 1991 with the untimely death of Nelson's son, Billy Jr., who was 33 years old at the time of his tragic death, was battling a drinking problem that ultimately led to his untimely demise, but ultimately succumbed to his problems. Nelson's inner circle was rocked by the sudden loss, which sent shockwaves through the group. Immediately following the untimely death of his son, Nelson found himself struggling with an incomprehensible amount of sadness. Nevertheless, in the middle of the gloom, he found a ray of light in the form of his firmly held spiritual conviction in the concept of reincarnation. Nelson found peace in this idea, which gave him the reassuring knowledge that he would one day be reunited with his cherished kid, even while he was in the most hopeless of circumstances. However, Nelson's journey through life has been fraught with perilous brushes with fate, including a harrowing brush with death in a terrifying plane crash. Do you know how he went through that obsession? Let's watch. Painful death. In the distant past, Nelson's little plane was involved in a horrific crash when he was on his way to pay a visit to the famed Western film actor Happy Shahan. People who were on the ground were bracing themselves for the aftermath of a catastrophic event, and they were terrified of the worst possible outcome. When they arrived at the scene, reporters and those who could have been the first to respond were taken aback by the amazing image that they saw. As they got closer to the rubble, the reporters were excited by the possibility of finding Nelson seriously injured, or perhaps worse. On the contrary, they came across a rather unsettling scenario. Surprisingly, Nelson and his pilot escaped from the wreckage as if they were miraculously unaffected by the catastrophe that consumed them. Upon being asked how he was doing, Nelson reacted in his typical casual manner, so laying the groundwork for a scenario that would go down in history. A sly grin appeared on his face as he remarked that this was the perfect landing. "Do you remember that I got up and left?" The unshakable will and tenacity that Nelson possessed shined out in the face of the insurmountable difficulties that he faced. Willie Nelson's advocacy extends beyond the realms of music and into the realm of activism, particularly in his fervent support for the legalization of marijuana. What was his reason for doing so? And what did he do? What troubles did he encounter? Stay tuned. Field of activity. For a considerable amount of time, Nelson has actively advocated for the reform and legalization of cannabis, and he has used his position to ensure that his voice is heard. As a member of the board of directors of a national advocacy group that is working to reform the laws governing cannabis, he is actively involved in the cannabis movement. The reason that Nelson is so supportive is because he has personally experienced the consequences that are associated with the present drug prohibitions. Throughout his life, he has been arrested on several occasions for possession-related offenses. The lawsuit that Nelson filed against the Democratic Party in 2008 brought him into conflict with his party allegiance, which was a surprising development. Due to a dispute on the candidate's selection process, the party decided to ban Nelson's preferred candidate from receiving votes in the state of Texas, which ultimately resulted in the incident. As a result of Nelson's assertion that the party's requirement that candidates take an oath of fealty violated constitutional rights, a legal battle occurred, which brought to light Nelson's unwavering commitment to democratic principles. Despite this, Nelson's inexhaustible zeal for entrepreneurship is on full show in the extremely successful cannabis company that he created and currently manages. Under the Willie's Reserve brand, Nelson has launched his line of marijuana products that are available to the public lawfully. He is aiming his products at consumers in regions and nations where the substance is legal. Nelson's choice to enter the legal marijuana sector is a logical evolution of his engagement in the cannabis culture. Given his extensive history of activism and his connection to cannabis, both of these factors contributed to Nelson's decision. In addition to his work in the music industry and via his humanitarian efforts, Nelson has also made a reputation for himself in the film industry. With a CV that includes more than 30 films, Nelson has achieved a level of success in his acting career that many actors who work full-time can only dream of. His contributions to the film industry in Hollywood have been incalculable, ranging from iconic roles to cameos that will live long in the memory. At some point in the future, Nelson's cinematic talents may be recognized with a star on the illustrious Hollywood Walk of Fame. Willie Nelson's life is a tapestry woven with tales of heroism, camaraderie, and legendary feats, showcasing the depth of his character and the impact he has had on those around him. This is a statement he made in real life, not in a movie. So what is the basis for saying that it is true? Let's follow and consider it from many angles. Heroism, friendship, and legendary deeds. An incident like this happened when Nelson stepped in to calm down his stage staff after they got into a fight outside one of his concerts. As the threat level rose, Nelson acted swiftly, calming the situation with his composed presence and authoritative gestures. With a variety of weapons slung about his waist, he skillfully intervened between the combatants, preventing the situation from escalating into a full-blown shootout and saving lives. Nelson helped actor Dennis Hopper out of a jam in New Mexico, which was yet another gesture of kindness and commitment on his part. Nelson stepped in to save his buddy Hopper after he got into trouble with the authorities because of an event that was caused by his heavy drinking. Nelson was there to provide Hopper with unfaltering support and solidarity. However, Nelson's colossal character goes beyond earthly worlds. He even has the right to claim his hometown, Lucky, Texas. Luck won Nelson over. He ended up preserving and maintaining the set, which had been built for one of his films, as his sanctuary. Nelson continued his unwavering commitment to the village, restoring it and making sure its history would go on, despite setbacks like a terrible storm in 2014 that destroyed the site. While Nelson's career is marked by several accomplishments, one stands out as especially legendary: his song Crazy. Patsy Cline's legendary performance made Crazy famous, and it is now the most played jukebox song of all time. For someone who doubted his musical abilities for a long time, it's not bad. Relationship drama, shocking admissions, and controversial situations have all made an impression on Willie Nelson's personal life. After his first marriage ended in divorce, Nelson began a new chapter in his life with vocalist Shirley Colley. But a devastating revelation shattered their relationship and would eventually lead to its collapse. Thus, their union was never meant to endure. One day, a letter that seemed harmless came at Nelson's door, but inside it was news that would reveal a long-buried secret. It was a bill from the maternity ward of a hospital, which made Colley suspicious and led her to question Nelson over the costs. The couple's relationship began to fall apart, and they eventually divorced after it came to light that Nelson had fathered a kid outside of their marriage. In politics, as in his personal life, Nelson frequently found himself at the center of contentious arguments and conspiracy theories, continuing his tendency to incite controversy wherever he went. During an interview with Larry King, Nelson unexpectedly expressed doubt on the official storyline behind the September 11th attacks. After casting doubt on the official story, Nelson dove headfirst into contentious conspiracy theories, claiming that the Twin Towers had been purposefully brought down. Even though Nelson was embroiled in a whirlwind of political and personal conflicts, he became known for his ability to stand firm when wronged. It didn't take long for Nelson to address his son-in-law Steve squarely after learning of his abuse of his daughter Lana. Nelson confronted Steve head-on, scolded him, and made it plain that he would not stand for such conduct. As a hero for standing firm and protecting his loved ones in the face of peril, Nelson was dubbed Shotgun Willie for his heroic actions. After more than 50 years in the music industry, Willie Nelson shows no signs of slowing down. How influential is he? How hard does he work and dedicate himself to his music career? Let's see how a 90-year-old who is still passionate about music performs. Active in the music industry. A month before his 90th birthday, Willie Nelson performed at Autism Speaks Light Up the Blues 6 event in Los Angeles, showing that his passion for music is still going strong. To celebrate this special milestone, he held a series of performances at the Hollywood Bowl on April 29th and 30, with many friends and colleagues in the music industry participating. The featured artists included Snoop Dogg, The Chicks, Casey Musgraves, Beck, Chris Stapleton, and Leon Bridges. The events were not only a birthday celebration, but also a major music festival with the participation of top artists. Nelson expressed his deep gratitude for everyone's enthusiastic participation. On the occasion of my 90th birthday, I would like to thank everyone who came and sang happy birthday with me. Your support is the most precious gift I could have received. I am truly grateful to every one of you. He shared with sincere feelings, showing his appreciation for the support he has received throughout his decades-long career. What do you think about Willie Nelson's tumultuous life and how he dealt with it? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more interesting updates. Thank you and see you in the next